Yet, when we step foot on campus, we realize that we are not alone on this journey. University transcends academia, transforming into a vibrant community where individuals unite to learn from one another, to grow and to forge unforgettable bonds. It's not always about having a precise plan. It's not always about figuring out. It's not always about reaching the finish line first. It's about discovering what we are truly passionate about. The true essence of college, however, lies beyond the confines of academic pursuits. What truly makes college so special is the life that's lived within its walls. It's about seeing things from different perspectives, exploring unique possibilities, taking on new challenges, finding joy in friendship, embracing individuality, expanding our knowledge and skills, and immersing ourselves in extraordinary experiences. It's a path that teaches us about resilience, courage, and determination. A quest that allows us to pursue our goals with purpose and clarity. A quest that helps us find balance, happiness, and fulfillment. A transformation that inspires us to live with intention, curiosity, and joy. A trail that leads us to a deeper understanding of who we are and what truly matters. It's a journey of self-discovery, where every experience shapes us into the best version of ourselves. We attend college for the education, but what we live with is a treasure trove of experiences that shape us forever. Experience a whole new world of academic excellence in a global environment. Dayanand Sagar University, inspiring future trailblazers today.
Over to you, Bhairavi.
Yes, sir. Good morning, one and all. I'm Bhairavi. Welcome to this interactive training session under the School Development Initiative Program organized by Dayanand Sagar University. Dayanand Sagar University is a proud member of Dayanand Sagar Institutions, a group having premium colleges, universities, public schools, as well as international schools that has been imparting education for over 6 decades in different disciplines. As an elite university, we have a distinct approach to providing skill-based experimental and collaborative education to emerging students for their holistic development and prepare them to face any challenges in their real life. Thus, we are driving excellence in our training future leaders and workforce in various disciplines. We all know that we are living in a dynamic world where dramatic changing information technology are shaping our entire education ecosystems and the emerging business opportunities. We therefore believe in uplifting the prospective schools and their students by giving them proper career guidance and support. Under our School Development Initiative Program, that is SDIP, we are organizing separate high quality training programs for principals, teachers, and students as well, which can help them to grow in their future. Under this program, we organize different sessions on virtual as well as face-to-face basis that can improve the credibility of and efficiency of our educators. Our vision is to cover different topics such as mental health, happiness, NEP, Education Policy 2020, gift of time, silver lining, making an effective apology, gratitude letter, conflict resolution at work, goal visualization, overcoming a fear, and many more. Our high quality awareness programs for students include sessions on emerging cutting edge technology and related opportunities. So they have long-term vision before they enroll in their future university and can decide what is the right career path for them. Apart from this, we also need need-based customized high-quality teachers training and development session to different schools. On to today's session, I would hereby have Dr. K. N. Balasubramaniamurthy, our Vice Chancellor and Professor of CSE, Dayanand Sagar University, a former Vice Chancellor, PS University, Bangalore. Sir holds a bachelor's degree in electrical power engineering, master's degree in electrical engineering from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and a PhD in computer science and engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Sir has also worked as a research specialist in parallel computing at New Mexico State University, USA. Sir he is also former member of Karnataka State Higher Education Council and the Academic Senate member of IIT Dharwad. Welcome to you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Satish Kaushik, a consulting psychologist, a counseling psychologist, and certified happiness coach, and founder trustee of Rajbala Foundation, which is a national NGO working in healthcare and education. They have set up psychological counseling centers in 2 universities, having more than 4,000 students and faculties have been conducting live phone-in programs on psychological counseling on our 4 radio stations in the NCR region for more than 2 years, addressing mental health of more than 1 million people at the grassroots level. More than 250 episodes have been broadcasted so far, conducting faculty development and mentoring program for teachers and university faculties, worked in private as well as government sector for over 35 years at the senior positions. He will be the moderator for our today's session. Welcome to you, sir. Satish, sir.
Thank you.
Then we have Ms. Gurpreet Singh, who will be our trainer for the day. On the training will be on emotional roller coaster called Adolescence. She has a 25 years experience working with children and adolescents in the area of neurodevelopment disorders, socio-emotional difficulties, interpersonal relationship challenges, and psychopathologies in young people. Having served in the capacity of a school counselor and a special educator in different organizations, she has established a well-functioning counseling department at DPS Dwarka to support the unique needs of young learners in an inclusive school setup. Her focus area are mental health, counseling, human behavior and well-being. She is the senior counselor PGT Delhi Public School, Dwarka, New Delhi. She has worked there from July 98 to March 2022 and was heading the department. She has been extensively involved in promoting a positive and emotionally safe school climate through counseling, coordination, and crisis management for higher student success and reinforced healthy behavioral choices in young people. In keeping with the organization's mission, no child left behind. She also developed the school's inclusive education program to monitor the progress of children with their special needs. Welcome to you, ma'am. Now I will request Mr. Satish Kaushik to speak further, take it further.
Thank you, Bharvi. Welcome to all our participants as well as Professor Murthy. Today's topic is a very interesting topic, and all of us, all educationists, other people, they are all facing as parents as well as teachers. So we are facing these type of challenges during adolescence of our children or our students. So this topic will be talking about this topic, various challenges, we'll be talking about certain incidents also. And I think that will connect all of us to the upper challenges we are facing in our school as well as in our houses. Now I'll request Dr. Murthy to talk about this subject and set up the context for this session. Dr. Murthy, please.
Yeah, sure, Satish. There's a small change here.
Yeah.
We have a guest coming in from one of the consulates.
Okay.
So the Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, has given his welcome note to me.
Okay.
So that I could, share it with all
the
principals and teachers as well as to all the dignitaries who are here as speakers today.
Okay.
So with your permission, I would like to
Please.
express
It will be a
the welcome
pleasure
note.
for all of us.
Sure. So good morning to all of you. And my name is
Mhm.
Srinivas Shinde. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Dayanand Sagar University. Our sincere apologies on behalf of the Vice Chancellor. Yesterday late night, there was a message to him about a visiting delegate, uh, that has come from outside the country. So he is currently attending to them. It was supposed to get over by 11, but it has got extended by another 45 minutes. And hence, I will be delivering his welcome note. So, welcome to all the principals and teachers for today's special program on the topic emotional roller coaster called Adolescence, organized by Dayanand Sagar University under its School Development Initiative programs. Under the School Development Initiative plans, the team at the university is working closely with over 1900 plus schools across India in over 10 different states. Our vision to increase the coverage and bring all the states under its umbrella. We look forward to your wholehearted participation to get the benefits of the knowledge shared by experts from various respective fields. Coming to today's topic, which is adolescence. A young person who is no longer a child and not yet an adult between the ages of 13 and 17 is what is put in across as the uh, definition of adolescence. The normal feelings and behaviors of the middle school and the high school adolescent can be categorized into four broad areas: moving towards independence, future interest and cognitive development, sexuality, ethics, and self direction. As teachers and principal, handling students during this period is challenging and also an art. Your positive action towards it gives a positive shape, motivation, and development to the children, and the reverse can also affect the children. More on this, we will hear from the experts. Let me thank Dayanand Sagar University SDIP team from our operating clusters pan India for extending this opportunity to the schools and colleges and the principals. As in the morning, when I was taking an update, I saw that there were more than 730 plus registrations from across 10 different states, which is a very good initiative in terms of the registrations, as we understand that this topic is very, very important. Also, to share the next vision of SDIP, we are bound to have programs once in 15 days, which means every alternate Saturday, we will be conducting a lot of programs. And the SDIP team, through our clusters, are in touch with all of the principals and the teachers. We have also shared an email where we could get in some inputs on the topics that you would want us to conduct, so that we can look forward to taking out the best topics and bringing in the best people from the industry to share their thoughts and educate you on those topics. With this, I would like to thank Dayanand Sagar University for organizing this, and over to the speakers for their sessions. Thank you so much. Over to you, Satish.
Thank you, Sundar. And I'll request Dr. Murthy for his views and setting up the context. But before he starts, I would like to say one thing to all our participants and those who are listening to this program, is that Dayanand Sagar University, what they are doing is a unique program, which I think, as far as my knowledge goes, no other university is conducting these programs. It's very beneficial for teachers, very beneficial whoever is attending these programs. And as Mr. Shinde has requested, we'll request all teachers who are associated with these programs, please send their views, share their any incidents in their schools or wherever they have found it very difficult to deal with situations. if they can share their experiences with us, it will be very beneficial for all of us. So, Dr. Murthy, please. Now.
As I have delivered the note from Dr. Murthy's side, now it is over to the speakers.
Okay, let me let me start this program. Although we have very experienced and wonderful associate with us, Gurpreet, she has got tremendous experience. But just to set the context first, truly this topic, name of the topic which we have selected is a roller coaster. When you go to a roller coaster, you are scared also, you are anxious also, you are happy also. So the same type of feelings or emotional ups and downs comes when we are going through the development phase of adolescence. So the topic has been selected very appropriately. And if we understand this phase of life of a child, it will be very easy for all of us, whether we are parents or whether we are teachers. When I am saying teachers, so I'm talking to the principals also, because ultimately we are all teachers. So what I'll say is, if we understand these development phases or understand the physical changes which are happening with the adolescent, along with the psychosocial changes which are happening with the child, it becomes easier and easier for us to select our strategy to teach our students. It helps us. Sometimes normal behavior we treat as abnormal behaviors. So, and we take actions or we take decisions which are not very conducive for the students. So I'll not take much time here, but I'll put up few incidents, because as Bhairavi mentioned, we are conducting radio programs also, and these radio programs are live programs where we get calls from listeners and we address their problems. So sometime when we were discussing about the adolescent phase, development phase on our radio program, so we got certain calls. So I'll give those anecdotes. So and our listeners or our participants, if they connect with these type of situations, they can also send their questions to us or their experiences to us through question and answer box. So there are few incidents which happened, or there are few calls which I have received. So let me mention few things. One was, it was during COVID period. So there were holidays. So students were not staying in hostels. So in one of the counseling centers, what we were doing at that time during COVID, we were not going physically to the university, but we were addressing the problems of the students or counseling needs of the students through online mode. So one day I was counseling a girl about 9 years of age. That's the adolescent period. And she was staying with her parents. So while discussing with her, she said, I want to go back to the hostel, which was not open at that time due to COVID. But she said, I want to go back to the hostel. So then I asked him why she wants to. She is very comfortable. She is staying with her parents, and there should not be any problem. So she can focus on studying. She said, no, I want to go to my hostel because that's my free place. I'll get lot of free place. I'll get freedom. So that's one of the things. The children who are of this age group, they need independence. They need freedom. But how much freedom they need, it depends. So that type, one of the counseling incident which happened during that period. Another one was very peculiar. I was discussing adolescence on radio station, one of the radio station in the rural area. So somebody called. It's about the boy was about 17 years old. So he said, "Sir, I have to ask one question. एक सवाल पूछना है आपसे." So he said, "Okay, just sir, there is one girl. She smiles when I look towards her. So whether I am in love or she is in love with me." So these type of incident happens, but there is nobody to tell them why it is happening. And it happens everywhere. It is not in the rural area. So that's another incident which happened. The third one, which happened with me, we were conducting a radio program directly from a school where around 20 teachers were sitting with me, and it was a direct broadcast from the school itself. So one of the teachers, he raised one questions about two students, one boy and one girl. "Sir, there is a problem with the relationship." And what they did, they called their parents. They called the parents of the girl also to the school, and they started talking to all of them together. So it was a talk of the town. So everybody was knowing. So when we were conducting this counseling or this radio programs, the problem which I saw at that time while counseling is that we have made these things, these are very sensitive issues which has to be dealt with very sensitively. But it was not happening there. So these type of issues, when we talk about adolescence, so this type of issue comes, and these are universal issues. You can't say it is in India also, it's world over. So the all adolescents, whether boys, girls, anywhere in the world or anywhere in India, they go through these type of issues. And I'm sure our teachers and the principals and everybody, they may have come across these type of situations. So I'll request them to send their anecdotes or their questions to us. And now I'll request Gurpreet to come forward and deliver her session here. Gurpreet, please. Hello, Gurpreet. Gurpreet, are you there?
She's connecting.
Hello.
Her audio is connecting, sir. She's connecting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Okay, continue. Take your
I
time.
think I dropped out by mistake. Am I audible? Am I visible?
Yeah, we can hear you, Gurpreet. Parvi, we can hear.
It says the host has stopped my video sharing.
Okay.
Well, the video sharing is to be done by me.
Okay.
One second. One
Can you
second.
see? Oh.
Yeah. Shakat Ali, can you just check the? Yeah, we are able to see your video now.
Right. Yeah, I missed out on the last part of what Mr. Satish said. I heard most of it, Satish sir. So am I allowed to begin?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, you are. Please continue now, because what I was talking about certain incidents which happened during my radio programs and when we were broadcasting directly from a school. So it was about relationships. Another one was some assumptions by boys and girls, what is happening to them, and the freedom they need. So these were three areas. I think when we talk about adolescence, they are important areas. And I hope you will be going through all this. So let's talk about it.
Okay. So thank you so much. Am I on board on this? Shall I begin?
Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good morning to one and all. At the onset, I'd like to thank, I'll take this opportunity to thank Dr. Murthy, Vice Chancellor, Dayanand Sagar University for, creating this wonderful forum for educators and professionals like us to come together and, learn by sharing our best practices in our respective fields. And I, along with my colleague, Mr. Satish Kaushik, we are very happy to be a part of this entire program. Thank you so much, Mr. Shinde and Bhairavi, for this seamless coordination. I'm told that there are some very exciting topics that would be covered in this series of training program that is being conducted. However, today we're going to keep our focus on adolescence, an exciting yet the most intriguing phase of human life, a phase which is marked by, creativity, risk taking, a phase which is marked by adventure and so many times misadventure, and most important of all, tsunami of emotions. It's a tsunami of emotions. In fact, it is an emotional roller coaster with no inbuilt handrails or fasteners to secure the person. And we will soon find out why. If we
Please,
look
Romy, you
back,
are able to see my screen?
yes, I'm
Okay.
able to see.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If we look back on our life, there's only one thing that we are sure of, and that is, that life flies by and it's easy to get lost in the blur. In adolescence, that is when we were adolescent, it was always about, if you remember, how do I fit in? When we came into our 20s, I'm sure it was about, what do I really want to do? When most of us hit our 30s, which I hope most of us, I'm here, are more than 30 years of age, we probably found ourselves asking, is this what I'm really meant to do? And so it went. So I think the trick is in living these questions, experiencing the ups and downs of that phase, and not really worrying so much about what lies ahead, but rather sitting in that gray area and being okay with, where you are. Now, having said that, adolescence, by all means, by all standards and all definitions, it's considered to be a bumpy ride. It's like driving through fog with no headlights on, hoping to not crash into something. And our role as educators and well-meaning adults is to help our adolescent students, to hold on tight and teach them to hang on while they pass through this bumpy ride. Talking of bumpy ride, one of my ex-colleagues, once mentioned in a jovial manner, that there's only one thing harder than living in a home with an adolescent, and that's being an adolescent yourself. The moodiness, the volatility, the lack of impulse control, all would be close to clinical conditions. Somebody asked I was reading through the question answers, and somebody has asked, what are some normal behaviors which may be regarded as abnormal by us teachers? So I'm sure as we move along, many of your questions will anyway I'm hoping that they will get answered along the way. So all these, aspects of which are considered to be typical aspects of adolescence behavior, they actually would be close to clinical conditions. We would actually regard them as underlying symptoms of some pathology had they been occurring, or would they occur in at some other point in life. But in adolescence, they are just a part of the total behavioral portfolio. In fact, you may even consider these conditions to be like milestones which the adolescent would have to hit. They need to pass through these situations, these heartburns, before they move forward. So if I ask you today to just close your eyes and conjure up an image of a typical adolescent, imagine the prototype of an adolescence, what would that be? And if you're able to do that, you'll get to know, you will understand what I'm talking about. So today I have handpicked some key concerns and issues that afflict adolescents and create turbulence for them. And my whole focus is going to be to understand these concerns through the lens of science and scientific inquiry. So let's begin. Can we have the next slide, please?
Yes.
The beginning of adolescence we all know it's loosely anchored to the onset of puberty, isn't it? And we all know that this transition, sorry, brings alterations in the hormonal levels, and changes in the hormonal levels are responsible for a series of, consequent physical, emotional, psychological changes, which we are well versed with, be it the growth spurt, sexual maturation, or changes in the skin texture, energy levels, sleep patterns, and so on. So I'm not going to go very deep into it because it'll look like a biology class otherwise. But we know for a fact that these physical changes are further responsible for an n number of social, psychological, emotional, even behavioral, changes in the young adolescent. For instance, let's say a 16-year-old boy who's beginning to experience a voice crack. You know, what do you think his behavior is going to be like? He's naturally going to be very shy, very self-conscious, or may feel very socially awkward. His learning will get affected. And as an educator, I'm more concerned about how is this behavior going to affect my student in the class. So the behavior in the class will get affected, the learning will get affected, because he may not want to answer in the class in front of everyone, or perhaps, let's say, participate in class discussions. So at this point, if a teacher who does not have an understanding of adolescent issues, or is not aware of or not sensitive to the adolescent psyche, then she may continue to, or he may continue to press upon the student to make the oral presentation in the class, or perhaps answer aloud in the class. Now think about it. This may cause the student to clam up, make him extremely anxious, and perhaps even withdrawn. So as teachers, we need to be alert and aware that the refusal to answer in the class may not always be due to lack of information or lack of knowledge on part of the student. There could be other factors at play. In fact, I came across one such situation when a very bright student in the class, and I'm drawing from my experience of last several years as a school counselor. Every now and then I will keep referring back to these cases, and I found that here was this situation where a seemingly bright boy in the class, he stopped participating suddenly. And eventually, on probing, it was found that some students who were sitting behind him would start giggling every time he would stand up to answer. So these events may appear very small and silly to most of us as adults, but actually they may cause deep scars on the psyche of any young adolescent, more so because their brain is undergoing a total revamp.
Gurpreet, you are on silent, I think.
We are not able to hear you,
We
Gurpreet.
are not able to hear you. You're on mute, ma'am.
Are you in mute?
Mute.
I think you're on mute, Gurpreet.
Okay, take your time.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Again.
But your video, yeah, it's gone.
Yeah. So I'm not sure at what point this happened.
No, nothing. We have not missed anything.
Okay.
So you continue, please.
Okay. Okay. So I was just mentioning that as teachers, we need to be very alert and aware that, sometimes when a child, does not want to answer, a child, by a child, I mean, the student in the class, the adolescent, the teenager in the class, and I'm referring to students from classes 10th, 11th, and 12th specifically. So many times when they feel shy, or when they are not feeling up to it and they don't want to answer in the class, it may not always, we need not always attribute it to their lack of knowledge or lack of information about the subject at hand. It could be, there could be many other factors at play. So it's very important that we are sensitive to the current situation of the adolescent at hand. Another factor which I was just mentioning when the mic went off was that maturation is not a uniform process, right? We are all aware of it. There are variations, there are individual differences in maturation. So there may be early bloomers, there may be late bloomers in our class. In a in a class of, let's say, 40 or 45 odd students, adolescent students, which is absolutely normal, absolutely by the books. But the problem happens when these youngsters get subjected to bullying or are ridiculed by their mates in class because of these visible bodily changes. So much so that these dynamics within the classroom scenarios can create lifelong issues like body image issues, eating disorders, anxiety, and many other issues which sometimes may actually need professional intervention. So many of my clients, students who I am meeting now, children or adults who I meet now, sometimes their problems can be traced back to issues that they faced in their childhood or late adolescence. So as teachers, we need to be really, really cautious and on our toes. A lot has been said about, when it comes to adolescence, we hear a lot about hormonal changes that occur during this phase. But are we also aware that, there are new and significant findings in developmental psychology and neuroscience, which reveal that there is a fundamental reorganization of the brain, both at a structural and a functional level, that takes place during adolescence. Next slide, please. I'm going to be highlighting some of the important changes that the adolescent brain goes.
Gurpreet, you have gone on mute now.
We're not able to hear you, Gurpreet. Yeah, could you check?
Yeah, she's trying, I think. Meanwhile, we'll request all our participants to bear with us. Sorry for these.
Satish, in the meantime, you can also see the Q&A, and wherever you are able to answer it in private, you can do that.
Okay, well,
you can keep a tab on the Q&A, and one by one you could answer it in private.
Okay. So very interesting questions, some of them.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah. So.
It's a request to all the participants. In the meantime, if you have any specific questions, you can please put it in the Q&A.
Gurpreet, are you back?
I am back, but
yeah. Just continue. Continue, please.
I am so
You're
sorry.
Audible, sir. You're audible, Gurpreet.
Okay. Very sorry for this glitch. It keeps happening for some strange reason. So I was talking about some of the changes that happen at the brain level, which we need to highlight, which we really need to understand. I think it's please stop me the moment you feel that it's gone mute again. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Don't worry. These things happens.
Yeah. So the first important change that I'd like to bring to your attention is, it's called synaptic pruning. Imagine your brain like a garden, which needs regular maintenance. During adolescence, the brain prunes or trims away unnecessary connections, just like we prune plants. This helps to make the brain more efficient and specialized, like removing extra branches to help the important ones grow better. So that's one very important change. I'm sure most of our science teachers here would understand. I've tried to keep it very simple and using common, parlance, so that we are able to understand what this really means. The second brain change is strengthening of neural connections. Now, think of your brain as a network of roads. Some roads are used more frequently than others, right? So during adolescence, the brain strengthens the connections that are used often, making them faster and more reliable. It's like improving the main roads to make travel between different areas faster and easier. So if an adolescent learns, I mean, I'm just trying to help you understand what does this actually imply in their behavior or learning process. If an adolescent learns how to use a technique to solve a problem during this time, or perhaps use a strategy to resolve an interpersonal conflict, or maybe learns that engaging in a certain behavior or certain thought process or perceiving a certain emotional experience results in a positive outcome for him or her, then these connections are likely to stay. They're likely to be strengthened. They will stay probably for the rest of his or her life. Same way, if the young teenager has been experiencing, let's say, bullying, and is not able to assert to resolve the issue, finds himself or herself on a back foot when it comes to dealing with a negative situation like that, he repeatedly feels inadequate in handling this kind of a concern, then the neural pathway of the self concept that I am incapable of protecting myself is likely to be strengthened, and that will go with him or her for the rest of his life. I'm incapable of protecting myself. So any behavior, any thought, any emotion may get strengthened as part of the individual's neural circuitry, depending on how frequently it is used by the person. So use it or lose it, very commonly heard, right? Another brain change is development of long range connections. Now imagine your brain to be like a big city with different, neighborhoods. During adolescence, the brain builds better connections with these neighborhoods. This allows different parts of the brain to work together more, effectively. It's like improving the transportation between different areas of the city to make it easier to get around. So different parts of the brain get integrated in such a way that coordination between these parts becomes efficient. And this is yet another way the brain reconstructs itself. Yet another way is network refinement. Now think of the brain as a team of players. During adolescence, the brain's team becomes more organized and more specialized, wherein each player, each part of the brain has a specific role and it works together along with the other parts, to achieve certain goals. And this makes the team very efficient and effective, just like a sports team when it practices and gets better at playing together. So I've tried to use these simpler explanations so that you can get a better, you can better understand that changes that occur in the adolescent brain, why are they so critical to understand how they think and learn and behave, and why is it so important for us as educators to support our students' learning and development during this crucial phase of their life. This plasticity of the brain makes it more adaptable and sensitive to experiences and learning. So while it facilitates the acquisition of new skills, this kind of a rewiring that is taking place, it facilitates the acquisition of new skills and knowledge. The downside is that it also makes the brain more susceptible to negative experiences and negative influences, such as experimentation with drugs, seeking thrill or sensations, which can put them in harm's way. Next slide, please. Then there are other significant structural and functional changes in the adolescent brain. These significant changes happen in two very important areas of the brain. One is the prefrontal cortex, and the other one is the amygdala, which can have very severe and serious implications for the behavior and impulse control and decision making, issues that we frequently encounter with youngsters. What is the prefrontal cortex? What does it do? This is the part of the brain which is responsible for decision making, for reasoning, for judgment, for problem solving, impulse control. So you can say this part acts like the CEO of the brain. It helps us to make smart choices. It helps us to think about the consequences of the actions. It helps us to do long-term planning. Not only that, the maturation of prefrontal cortex, leads to the development of what are known as executive functions, which includes self-regulation, my ability to regulate myself, my behavior, working memory. What is working memory? Working memory is it's a higher order brain process which is used for a wide range of cognitive activities like problem solving, doing mental maths, understanding complex sentences, and so on and so forth. So that is taken care of by the prefrontal cortex. And of course, cognitive flexibility, our ability to shift one's thinking, our perspective, without getting stuck in rigid or inflexible patterns. So this is what our prefrontal cortex does for us. The other important part of the brain that I was talking to you about is the amygdala, which is a small almond-shaped, structure in the brain, which is involved in processing emotions, including fear and pleasure. This is the part which is responsible for, which plays a very important role in the fight and. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I thought maybe it got.
No, it's interesting. Okay. That's why we are quiet.
So this is the part of the brain which plays an important role in the fight and flight response, which we frequently hear about. And this part of the brain is, programmed to react quickly and intensely, especially in stressful or emotional situations. So if I were to use a metaphor for amygdala, you can imagine the amygdala to be like, let's say, a smoke detector. Okay. What role does a smoke detector play? It can quickly alert us to potential threats, fears, or even enjoyable or pleasurable experiences. But what happens is during adolescence, this smoke detector of ours or of the adolescent, it may sometimes go off even when there is no real danger, when there is no real threat. So it's always on a hypervigilant state. So the amygdala can sometimes be way more active and sensitive during adolescence as compared to adulthood. And that's the reason why we find certain behaviors so abnormal while they're actually technically very, very normal, and the adolescent is actually going by the books. So these are two very important brain parts that we need to consider when we talk about adolescent behaviors. Now, here is the catch. Having explained all of this to you, the catch is that the prefrontal cortex matures later than the other brain regions, especially the amygdala. So during adolescence, the prefrontal cortex is still developing and may not be fully equipped to, help the adolescent make the best decisions. Because all your good decisions are based on judgment, which are coming from the prefrontal cortex, this part of the brain. Now, this discrepancy in development can lead to an imbalance between the emotional and, impulsive responses driven by the amygdala and the cognitive control and regulation, which is provided by the prefrontal cortex. I hope you were able to get a sense of this.
Yeah, that's it. Imbalance between the two. Yeah,
absolutely. There is an imbalance, and we are expecting the young adolescent to, we are coming from a cognitive perspective. We are telling them this is bad for you, this is not good for your future, and the adolescent is actually receiving it from his amygdala, is receiving it from his emotional centers, right? Please change the slide. So what do you think is going to happen when your brain centers responsible for decision making, delaying gratification, impulse control, they're on the back seat or are compromised because they're still, under construction, and the emotional centers are overactive? Quite naturally, the result would be a touchy, oversensitive, overreactive adolescent. So the heightened emotional responses and the impulsive behaviors that we frequently observe in our adolescent students and are very normal part of the trajectory are an outcome of an underdeveloped frontal cortex. Now you know who to blame. We often wonder why our teenagers demonstrate such irrational behaviors, often making decisions based on their feelings rather than logical thought process. Now we know why. I've come across so many adolescents, who are engaged in intimate relationships with have boyfriends and girlfriends, and because of that, parents would sometimes come back and say, they've lost interest in studies. And if you address this concern with the adolescent, somehow it's not making sense to the adolescents. For them, the more important thing is to stay connected with their partners rather than pay attention to their careers or futures. So it becomes a very tricky situation for well-meaning adults to help them out of this situation. So as we continue, the next slide, please. As we continue to understand the science behind these behaviors, I would like to draw your attention to a very peculiar, behavior, which we often observe in young adolescents, and that is risk-taking behavior and sensation-seeking. So now all these factors or issues that I talk about, you can analyze them from the perspective of the scientific explanation that I've given you. Risk-taking and sensation-seeking behaviors. Risk-taking or high-risk behaviors would include reckless driving, overspeeding, experimentation with drugs and substances. It could also include driving under influence. Some of them are underage, so underage driving is a risk behavior. Unsafe sexual practices, violence, aggression, stunting. So many times we see young 18, 19, 20 years old doing bike stunts. It's very common. It used to be very common in Delhi some years back. Then they would engage in thrill-seeking activities, thrill-seeking sensations. We so many times hear young adolescents trying to, click selfies to post on TikTok, make TikTok videos, standing on very precarious places like maybe hanging from a cliff or, walking on a tightrope and doing all kinds of crazy stunts. Involvement in gang-related activities leading to physical harm, legal issues, and other negative consequences. So what would be the probable cause of such risky behaviors, which are a hallmark of adolescent behaviors? Certainly the immaturity of the prefrontal cortex combined with the increased reward sensitivity, heightened responsiveness to rewards or pleasurable experiences. During adolescence, the brain's reward systems becomes very sensitive and reactive. They need immediate rewards. And this reward sensitivity can influence their behaviors, their motivation, and decision making, leading to high risk behaviors. Now, this biological condition of theirs also makes them prone to seeking novel experiences.
But sometimes, Gurpreet, sometimes these behaviors, they are for exploration.
Yes, absolutely. So novel experiences.
And these risky behaviors or the behaviors which they go for, sometimes they learn also from these behaviors.
Yes. So how much becomes too much is something that we need to calculate, and we need to help them do what is known as risk assessment, which I'll come to a little later.
Okay.
So like I said, this kind of a risk-taking tendency, it puts them in very precarious situations where they may want to enter into forbidden territories. Like I said, engaging with dark web, experimenting with drugs, forming gangs or pushing limits, seeking novel sensations, experimentation with not only drugs, experimentation with language. Suddenly you find absolutely sane looking, adolescents using foul language, using different kind of hairstyles. They want to stand out and yet they want to mingle. So they're also likely to overestimate rewards and underestimate risks. So I'll give you an example. If you tell a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old child that here are 4 windows, you're allowed to open these 3, 1, 2, 3, but please don't open this last window. So this child who's an 8-year-old or let's say a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old is likely to pay heed and will comply. But imagine if you tell this to an adolescent, what is going to happen? What do you think is going to be the response? He or she is definitely going to ignore those 3 windows for which permission was given and would get more curious about what lies behind the closed window, the one that has been forbidden. So the lesson learned here is, for us as adults, never use the word don't with an adolescent, because that's precisely what he or she would want to do. Adolescence is also a time of intense emotional highs and lows. As teenagers navigate various hormonal changes. So, in addition to all the biological factors which lead to risky behaviors, there are many social and psychological factors also at play. And the one that stands out is is a strong need to get social approval or get peer approval. It's also about identity formation because youngsters at this age are struggling to establish themselves, as unique individuals or entities which are different from their families. It could also be, this risk taking behavior could also be simply to overcome feelings of boredom and monotony. As Mr. Satish Kaushik said, it could be simply to explore. It could be just an exploratory activity or simply out of curiosity. Another factor that could come into play is that adolescents yearn for freedom. They yearn for autonomy and long for independence. And this can lead them to, test boundaries and engage in behaviors that could, challenge authorities or challenge or break social norms. They take pride in breaking social norms actually because they want to see how far they can go without, and how quickly other person will get bothered. Sometimes I have found from my experience that a lack of information and knowledge can lead them into precarious situations, especially in the case of experimentation with drugs. So misinformation or lack of information can be a big factor here. So I remember, working with a teenager who would visit hookah bars, which were at some point very prevalent in Delhi. So when I told him that this could be addictive and he should stay away from it, he told me something very baffling. He said, "Ma'am, it's available in all kinds of flavors, so it's not really a drug." In fact, I have heard many such statements from young teenagers. "Ma'am, weed is not a drug." Those of us who are in schools would know we come across these terminologies very often. Weed is not a drug. "Ma'am, it's easy to quit alcohol. Uh, this is only an e-cigarette, so it's safe. Vaping is cool. It's a party recreational drug," and so on and so forth. So Google and all the information that you can gather, they may gather from social media, does nothing to dispel these myths and misconceptions, which the young adolescent would carry. Please remember, adolescence is a critical period for shaping healthy decision making patterns and impulse control. So it's very essential that as educators and teachers, as principals, we provide them with supportive environments. We provide them with guidance. We don't become preachy. We don't stand on a pedestal and guide and preach about it, but create inclusive environments where they would want to share what is going wrong with them. And such targeted interventions through counseling, through guidance, can help the adolescents to strengthen their prefrontal and amygdala circuitry, so that better emotional regulation and decision making can be fostered. Here I would like to share a case vignette from my own practice. Sanya, of course, I've changed the name for to protect for the sake of confidentiality. Sanya was a 16-year-old girl who was referred to me on account of her behavior troubles. She had played truant from school. She skipped school one day along with some of her friends and went to a mall. She went to a mall, and there in the mall she shoplifted. She stole some item from a shop, and it just so happened that she was apprehended by the shop owner. And after a lot of argument, the police came into the picture and parents were called. Eventually, after everything was settled and handled by the parents, they sought professional help because they really couldn't figure out, they really couldn't understand why a girl from a decent, well-off family would resort to this kind of a behavior. Now, as it turned out, Sanya had failed her maths test on the day prior to this so-called misadventure. Now, instead of reflecting on the reasons behind her poor performance or doing some kind of error analysis or connecting with her teacher to seek guidance, she retorted by becoming angry and frustrated. She was angry with herself. She was angry with the teacher. She was angry with her parents. So Sanya decided to bunk her school on an impulse the following day. And without notifying anyone, she headed out with her friends to a nearby shopping mall. And while at the shop, she lifted some item from the store. This she did at the behest of her friends who had given her a dare. Now, most of the school teachers who are present here in the group today would be aware that there is a game which is very popular amongst the adolescent community, if I can say so, and that is called Truth and Dare. In this particular game, the friends would ask a classmate to divulge any secret aspect of their life, or else the classmate could take the pick. Could take their pick. If they don't want to divulge anything about their life, they could carry out a challenge. They would pick up a dare. So what happens is, without thinking through the consequences or doing any kind of risk assessment, just to impress her peers, Sanya went ahead and lifted something from the store. Now, most of the time, these dares or challenges that are given out by the classmates are tasks which are forbidden or are risky or perhaps embarrassing. And this is one great way of proving that you belong to the particular group. And Sanya went ahead and did it without doing any kind of risk analysis or without thinking through the consequences of her behavior, which eventually put her in a big time trouble. So this scenario demonstrates how an adolescent's impulse control issues can have a bearing on how they think, feel, act, or learn. Next slide, please. Yet another important issue that needs deliberation when we talk about adolescent development is peer influence. Adolescents compare themselves to their peers, and ever wondered why? Because they want to gauge their own abilities. They want to validate their own social standing. They may want to conform to the norms and behaviors of their peer group to gain acceptance, to avoid rejection. And sometimes they adopt certain behaviors and beliefs to fit in with their peers. And they want to avoid being seen as deviant or different from their peer groups. And because this is a time for identity formation, peers play a significant role in shaping one's self-concept. So they get very touchy about their friends. I think the major complaint of parents during PTMs, I'm sure teachers would vouch for that, would be that their young son or daughter is perpetually engaged on the phone with friends. It is very difficult to make them disengaged from the stronghold of their friends. Next slide. A word about relationships, something which is very bothersome in a school setup. Adolescence is a time of emotional exploration and self-discovery. Romantic relationships provide an avenue for teenagers to, explore their feelings, express affection, experience love and attachment in a very different way, because these are newer sensations, these are novel feelings, and they get curious about it and they want to experiment with it and explore it. Also, because romantic relationships play a very significant role in shaping the the teenagers' sense of self and identity. And it provides them with opportunities to, develop how should I put it, a deeper understanding of their own, let's say, preferences, values, relationship expectations, and so on. And in fact, they learn about themselves through the interactions, with their partners. And they learn to navigate conflicts. They learn to understand their boundaries and needs within a romantic context. So it is absolutely normal for them to engage in these kind of relationships, which comes across as very odd and scandalous to us as teachers, as adults in a school setup. Quite naturally, their peer relationships, media influence, cultural norms, all that would impact, which is why you would wonder why we were not like this when we were youngsters and adolescents. We were not like this. We would fantasize about it. We would talk about it we would whisper about it with our friends, but because inhibitions were so strong, media influence was not so much at that time. We would not discuss it so openly the way youngsters do it today. So like I said, it's a very normal thing, but the problem in these romantic relationships is that sometimes these relationships can bring about humongous emotional challenges for adolescents. Like I told you, this boy I was talking to, he was in class 12th, and parents were at their wits' end. That he's just feeling he's not studying because this boy said that this girl pulled the plug on me. She kind of broke up with me, and I'm not able to focus on my studies. So he kept, lamenting about it and kept thinking about it and feeling miserable about it. And his entire focus from the studies kind of was lost. So that became a big time trouble and is a huge challenge during adolescence. More so because adolescents experience intense feelings, be it happiness, be it love, be it jealousy, or a heartbreak for that matter. The emotions are very intense thanks to the amygdala. So, managing and navigating these emotions can be very challenging for adolescents and teenagers. And teachers can play a very supportive role in helping them understand and cope with these emotional experiences. So, rather than putting a blanket ban on intimate interactions, we can promote open communication. We can, model respectful interactions and provide guidance on healthy boundaries. How much is too much is something that we need to teach them. Next slide, please. So, by understanding the key features of adolescent development and its implications for learning, educators can design instructional approaches that can cater to the unique needs and capabilities so that, we promote effective learning experiences and positive academic outcomes. Because in a school setup, that's the main focus, to provide positive academic outcomes. So, how do we do that? First and foremost, and I think that is the mother of all advices that one can ever give when it comes to handling adolescence, is to emphasize, is to promote emotional support. Adolescents' emotional well-being really influences their learning and behavior and motivation. So as educators, as teachers, it's very important that we create a safe and nurturing environment where they feel valued, they feel supported and respected. At the same time, it's important to provide opportunities to students to express and manage their emotions constructively. Self-expression must be encouraged at all costs through positive student teacher relationships. And when I say positive student teacher relationship, it is often misunderstood because it doesn't really mean being over friendly with the adolescent, with the teenager. Yes, we need to be friendly and we need to be approachable, but we cannot and must not become their friends. So that's a word of caution. That's something that we need to be alert to. Also, we need to vary our instructional approaches. A lot of our students would benefit from diverse instructional methods that would cater to their changing cognitive abilities. So very important to incorporate a mixture of lecture style teaching, hands-on activities, group work, technology based cognitive skills. All this is carried out in most schools, especially till the middle school. But in 10th, 11th, 12th, many a times I see it becomes only chalkboard teaching method because of the humongous pressure of completing the syllabus and the pressure of sitting for a board exam. In fact, I think most post-COVID, most schools continue to retain online teaching platforms and software. So we know for a fact that adolescents are digital natives and they're accustomed to technology-rich environments. So please leverage technology tools and platforms to enhance learning experiences. Also give them opportunities to take ownership of their learning and make choices in their academic pursuits, because we know that they crave for independence and autonomy, right? Uh, Autonomy can boost, giving them a sense of autonomy can boost their motivation and engagement. Also, we need to encourage collaboration and social learning, because we know for a fact that they are greatly influenced by their peers. So this learning comes handy. I know my adolescent student is going to be hung up or is very concerned about his friends or her friends. So it would be a wonderful idea to implement cooperative learning strategies, encourage collaboration and teamwork and peer learning experiences rather than competition and comparison. Facilitate group discussions, project based learnings, and collective learning. A very interesting strategy, which I found was very interesting and very workable, is think, pair, share. So, if you want to teach a certain concept and you want class participation, you pair students very carefully, give them a task, ask them to kind of reflect on it, and then share their findings or their opinions and thoughts. This way you can reach out to the most quiet child in the class, because the child is paired with another student. It'll be easier for that child to come up and answer in the class. Very important to challenge your students with ethical dilemmas. We know for a fact that prefrontal cortex is also developing. Learning is, the brain changes are happening, and the youngster has started developing what are known as critical thinking and abstract thinking. So please challenge your students with ethical dilemmas, case studies, real world scenarios, which require, thoughtful analysis and evaluation. And I'm sure it can be implemented by all teachers, irrespective of whatever subjects they are teaching. So encourage reflection on decisions that they make. Uh, Teach them risk assessment. When you teach them risk assessment, they would be able to, you're encouraging them to think through the consequences of their action. You're encouraging them to, rely more on their prefrontal cortex. You're encouraging them to do what is known as analysis and critical thinking. And at all costs, avoid being directive and give ready-made answers, because that way you shut down their prefrontal cortex, you shut down their ability to analyze and think for themselves. A very important strategy, which I think must be spoken about, is to teach metacognitive skills, metacognitive strategies. What is metacognition? Metacognition means being aware of one's own thinking abilities, being aware of or understanding our cognitive process, how we think, how we learn, how we solve problems. So help them develop skills like how to set goals, how to plan, how to monitor progress. Teach them strategies to manage distractions, because they have enough distractions. Help them to set achievable goals. All these skills can empower them to take control of their learning process and improve their academic performance also. Please change the slide. As I come to the end of my presentation, I would want to ask you all, do you remember when you were a teenager arguing with your parents, thinking that adults, they just don't get it? So that means it is a typical behavior. It is a stage that we all go through. So seize the opportunity. We need to see the potential of this period in the life of our students and treat it as an opportunity and not as a curse, not as a pathology. So many times I hear even parents and teachers talking about oh my God, I'm dealing with a group of adolescents, as though they are, it's a mental disorder, as though it's a personality flaw. It's a phase that all of us go through. And it's an opportunity, as I said, and not a curse. With these words, I would like to wrap up my presentation. And thank you so much for listening so patiently. I'd be happy to take up any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gurpreet. Very wonderfully summed up the whole thing. And the issues which we face in our day-to-day activity, day-to-day school period. I think you have summed up very nicely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Satish, I think you must have made some notes of the questions that must have come in, since my screen was on the sharing part. Would you want to take up some questions and then
we have received some very interesting questions.
Yeah, please.
One of the questions I think you have touched in the beginning about the shyness of the children during adolescence age, and the one of the problem which props up our social anxiety, and sometimes it becomes difficult to take care of those situations. So I think related with that, we have received one question. I'll read out the questions for you. My question is, some students during class hours are highly visibly reserved, quiet and not at all interacting with me, the teacher. Even though I tried several times in class and they spread a word or few after my large efforts taken to approach and indulge them into answer for my questions. The matter is they even know answer, but not sharing even other instructor. Also, it happens as the same. May I have a way to release them from such? I think it's more related with not answering or not talking in the class. So, what do you say about these type of situations? These are normal situations we come across during
Yes,
class.
yes, this is a very common practice. It's very interesting. The school that I was working with earlier, we formulated a policy. I'll explain it through this. We formulated a policy. It was a disciplining policy, and we, as in, I was not on the board, and so some red cards, were issued for disciplinary, or some pink cards for good behavior in the class, and blue cards for exemplary behavior, and so on and so forth. So it worked beautifully, issuing a pink card if a student displays good behavior or answers in the class, a blue card, or some kind of a pointer. It worked beautifully till the middle school. The same policy, the same technique fell flat on its face from 10th onwards. In fact, every time the teacher would give a red, a blue card or a pink card, or some kind of a positive remark openly in the class, the teacher would, the student would cringe. The student would shrivel up, to an extent that the student one day, one of the students came out and said, "Ma'am, please don't point me out in the class. I don't like it." So clapping for a student, or even praising the student, they don't like being singled out. Please remember, they do not like being singled out. Even if you have to praise them, do them when they are in a group. Praise the group. That's something that we need to understand about adolescents. They hate it when they are being singled out. So when you have to praise them, also praise them in a group. So answering the question, what the gentleman asked was that they don't answer in the class. So maybe if you use divide them into groups. If you divide them into groups or put them in pairs, as I mentioned, a strategy, think, pair, share, they will speak up. They don't want to speak up individually, but they'll speak up when they're in a group. Having said that, I know working with teenagers can be very difficult, but we need to also be very sensitive or careful as to, are we dealing with some kind of a mental health concern also here? Are we missing out some signal? Sometimes we have, a student who is overly shy or withdrawn, or any other symptoms, such as they should be, it's normal for them to be with their friends, right? But this is a student who's very withdrawn, who is excessively withdrawn and doesn't answer, doesn't take care of his, teenagers are supposed to be very self-conscious of how they look. But here is a teenager who's not taking care of his hair, is not groomed, is not bothered about how he or she looks. It has a strange sense of apathy, has, showing irresponsible behavior, looks visibly anxious, looks hopeless, is not able to focus. The first and foremost symptom is the youngster is not able to focus. Suddenly the marks have dipped. I think this is a call for concern. Immediately, the educational machinery around the student must spring into action. The school counselor, whosoever is the first point of contact, should be tapped. It could be the teacher. The teacher should contact the class rep, and the school counselor, and the school machinery should spring into action, keeping the confidentiality and all those factors in mind.
Any behavior which doesn't seem normal,
yes,
I think it should be, you should be sensitive to watch those behaviors.
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Absolutely.
So another interesting question is, there is a student fear parents in society the most, as they may branded failures. In turn, it stresses them. How to overcome it? We have a lot of questions, Gurpreet.
Yes, I can see that it's happening. So, well, there is this concept, that has come up, fear of failure.
Yeah.
It's not only specific to adolescents, but yes, adolescents, because they are very self-conscious and socially conscious. So that plays on their mind way more, and they experience it more, because like I said, said, of the overactive amygdala, any emotion that they experience, even if it's fear of failure, it will be heightened. It will be it will be experienced, uh, in a much more intense manner. So it's a common concern with adolescents because they are facing new challenges, expectations. They're feeling awkward about themselves. They are very unsure about their roles, about their future concerns, careers, etc. They're very worried about friends rejecting them, and so on and so forth. So how do we handle that? Uh, it's very important to foster a growth mindset, and that goes, we don't react and have a band-aid approach to this whole thing. Fear of failure cannot be overcome in a day.
Correct. Yeah.
We should ensure that it does not set in, right? So having a growth mindset is very important. Encouraging our students. What do I mean by growth mindset? Growth mindset would mean that my intelligence and my abilities can be developed through effort and through learning. If I'm an adolescent and I believe that if I put in efforts, if I learn, then these abilities, these skills can develop. I can nurture them and I can improve them. So this will help them. Also helping them to understand that failure is a natural part of growing up and learning process. Our if you look back and if you think, uh, our entire educational, forget about educational machinery, our entire ecosystem, to be very honest, is engineered towards success. As parents, we teach our children that we need to succeed. We need to do all this to succeed. We need to put in this kind of effort to do well. How many times do we actually prepare our children for failures? And come to think of it, failures and setbacks are the only truths. We will experience them much more in life than successes. So helping them to understand that this is the natural part of growing up and learning process, and this is not something something that we need to sit back and feel upset about and get morosed about. So helping them understand that failure is something that will happen, setbacks are something that will take place, and we need to kind of deal with it and look at it and move on. Also helping them to normalize failure. Please, when we talk about how do I teach my students or how do I teach my children how to overcome failure or fear of failure, let's first just understand how do we react to failures. What happens when my child comes back home and says, I didn't do well on a certain test, or I failed, or this is a huge setback, I couldn't clear a certain entrance, or I couldn't do well on a certain project. The adolescent will take emotional cues from our behaviors. If my face falls and I look visibly distressed and upset and disappointed and disillusioned, the youngster takes an emotional cues and understands and believes that it's bad to fail, it's wrong to make mistakes, and it's my future is sealed. So it's very important how we project the whole scenario to the young adult.
How we handle it. And in addition to that, Gurpreet, I would like to add a few things here.
Yeah.
That avoid using negative words. Sometimes we say that you can't do anything, kuch nahi kar sakte, aap to nalayak ho. These type of words when we use when we are handling students, that's not proper. So everybody has got their way of getting motivated. So don't use negative words. Rightly said, when we want to say something negative to the students, take them separately. And if they want to praise them openly. So
Absolutely. And
yeah.
not just negative, I would say even using sarcasm. Many times, we find, when we are conversing with our youngsters, uh, as teachers, we need to be very, very cautious. The kind of language, especially adolescents, because their brains are undergoing a complete uphaul of their neural circuitry. Whatever you say is going to be just taken, and it's going to stick forever. So please do not use sarcasm. Instead, use humor. Humor can actually de-escalate a lot of situations. Let the humor be on you. Let the joke be on you, and de-escalate a situation in the class.
True.
And avoid using sarcasm, because youngsters can take very, very strongly to these to these kind of
Every word has got a meaning for them, and teachers are role model for students.
correct.
They take it in a different way. So another, I think it's for Bhairavi, how to constructively utilize the classroom relationship problems. Would you like to answer this,
No,
Bhairavi?
it is not for Bhairavi. Maybe she was trying to answer it.
Okay.
But the moment you
Okay.
touch the question, when you are one of the panelists, it will try to show that Bhairavi is answering.
Okay.
But it's not.
We'll answer.
Maybe she was
Bhairavi,
trying to
we'll
recall.
answer it actually.
Yeah. So it's over to you guys for answering it.
How to constructively utilize the classroom relationship problems.
Well, not just relationship problems. How do I keep my class alive?
Yeah.
That's more important. Why only relationships? Relationships are just a part of it, and of course you are the captain of your ship when you're in the class,
True.
right? So and more so because teenagers would listen more to the teachers than the parents, and parents would frequently come back and say that ma'am aap baat kariye. They would listen to you. Hamari to sunte hi nahi hai. So teachers can utilize their the students need. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody is talk. Is there any?
Bhairavi, can you go on mute? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So we know that for a fact that youngsters, there is a strong need for creative exploration. We've learned it through our this presentation, and we also know that they crave for novel experiences. They want to go into interesting and engaging and inclusive lessons. So teachers can utilize their curriculum planning or lesson plannings to create engaging lessons, inclusive lessons, allowing students to explore beyond beyond the curriculum, beyond the text, and build their sense of autonomy and a what is known as an internal locus of control. Very often a student would tell you things were beyond my control. I couldn't study because something happened, and I couldn't answer in the class because something. So the answer lies outside me. Helping them develop an internal locus of control, that you can take charge of your emotions. You can make good choices. It's not always your friends. You can't blame it on your friend. You can't blame it on your parents. You can't blame it on your genes. There are choices available, and you can exercise your choice. So all this can happen when you provide a psychologically safe and inclusive climate in the classroom.
Yeah, that's.
And please remember, teenagers will not learn from teachers they dislike. So it's very important that you create a sense of trust between you and the students, so that you are the go-to person when they are finding themselves in a spot. Half the battle is won if you are on their right side.
And whatever we have discussed, I think these changes which are happening with these children, what I feel, Gurpreet, is in a way the teachers are magicians.
Oh yes.
They change their strategies depending on the situations.
Yes.
So when they know about these changes which are happening with these children and what is happening to their development and all this, keeping in mind all these changes and developments, I think they can utilize it in a very constructive way, and the class can become, or the friend, they can become more of a friend of a child.
Yes.
And the instructors. So
there's one more thing. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So that can be very helpful if you understand these changes.
Right.
And because we have a lot of questions, the last questions I would like to ask from parents' point of view, because
before you say that, before you ask that question, Satiji, there is one more thing which I thought I must bring it to the awareness of the group here, that we need to talk to our young teenagers, adolescents as adults. They like to be treated as adults, but please remember they are still children. Please remember they are still children, but talk to them like an adult. They hate to be patronized. They hate to be singled out. So use the same tone that you would use with an adult. But at the same time, give them step-by-step instruction. Give them step-by-step direction. So many times I tell my parents, my teachers, when I interact with teachers, that you show them that you trust them, but don't trust them. Don't trust them.
So give them freedom, but restrict
Yes,
it.
yes. Do tell them that you trust them, but do your homework, do your spade work. Be watchful of their behavior.
Yeah,
We cannot turn a blind eye because
they are
they can be very wild
Yeah,
when it comes to thinking creatively. Be proactive. Plan your lessons in advance. You already know your group. You already know the students in your class. So don't leave yourself to figure out how to respond to a situation on the spot. Anticipate potential problems, plan their solutions, and keep reminding students of expectations and consequences. And that way you keep the class together. When we become friendly, that does not mean that you do not spell out clear cut boundaries and expectations. I remember when I was working as a counselor, I was also given the role of a life skills trainer. So every time I would enter the class, because life skill is not an exam class, I was very worried that the students will really take me for a ride. And this is class 11th and 12th. They're going to have a field day. So, because there is no lesson to be learned, there is no exam to be cleared, and so on. So, initially, when I would walk into the class, students would continue talking to themselves, and this is like a free period, and we can just talk and we can just have fun, and so on. So, right from the start, I established these boundaries that every time I enter the class, I do expect the class to stand up and wish me. I do not want these sporadic good mornings and good afternoon, ma'ams, from different places, different quarters. I want the entire class to stand up and wish me. Why? Because I feel disrespected. I did not enforce it by saying that this is the right thing to do and the school expects you to do. I said, I feel disrespected. And if you do not do it, I will consider this a personal you're trying to disrespect me. So from that day onwards, it was very interesting. Every time I would enter, they would get up, they would make it a point. They would start talking later, that's a different thing, but they would make it a point to stand up and wish me, and then they would settle down. So I think, and every time I would reinforce it, every time I would enter the class in different sections, I would reinforce it. What I'm trying to say is that if you keep on drumming it, if you keep on reinforcing it in a firm yet polite manner, keeping their dignity in mind, keeping their respect and privacy in mind, I think they come around, and they are a joy to be with.
yeah, true. And Gurpreet, thank you very much. I think we have taken a lot of questions.
Yes.
Whatever these adolescents are going through different ups and downs, this roller coaster ride which they are having. So I think support of parents, teachers, and everybody is required so that they can go through this ride smoothly and comfortably. Be careful, supervise them, give them freedom also, but supervise them. If you are finding any problems with them, any unusual things with them, take hold of that part, talk to them, create good communication protocols with them so that they come to you and they don't depend on outside and wrong advices. So thank you very much, Gurpreet. Now I hand it over to Bhairavi or winding it up, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. It was a good session. I am sure participants have also got a lot of knowledge out of it. There will be a recording of this session available. Will be sent it to all the participants also. And I'm sure Gurpreet ma'am, whatever she has guided them, it will definitely help them to develop in the schools, teachers, on principals as well. We look forward for more sessions with you all.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yes,
So,
each certificate will be sent across to all the participants who are registered with us.
And another
also another note for all the principals and teachers who are here. We have our cluster people from the university who will be interacting with you on a frequent basis. A lot of information is being sent on emails. A lot of information is being sent on WhatsApp. Kindly make sure that your your right email IDs as well as your mobile numbers are with us. It will be safe. We do not share any of your numbers to the public. It is purely for the university activities is just to make sure that the information is going to reach you on time. Please make sure if any emails are coming in from the university, and if you have the time, please do respond to it. There's an email which has been sent on behalf of the university, which is asking about the topics. Anything that you would feel is crucial that you would want us to conduct, we will be happy to look into it, discuss with our committee, and then come across with that particular topic if it is of interest to many of the teachers and principals. We also are looking forward to doing in-personal programs. For example, if there is any specific challenges that the schools must be having, they can share that with us, and we can send you the details of the experts who are on our panel, and you can then directly correspond with those speakers, and you could look forward to a training program directly from your side. The university will not get involved or is not interested in any commercials out of this. On the other side, once in 3 months or once in 6 months, the university is also looking forward to wherever we have our people available in clusters. We will look forward to a face-to-face session where we will invite all our partner schools and their teachers for a 1 day or a 2 day, kind of an interactive workshop, which is definitely going to take the relationship as well as your knowledge to the next level. So, anything else, Bhairavi, from your side?
There are some few more questions, so I would like to know if Madam, how she will be responding to them, because there are still questions coming up with us.
Okay.
Okay, just ask those questions.
Hello? Yeah.
Hello? Yes.
Yes.
There are
We
two,
can
three
go-
questions I have just got, ma'am. If you can just answer them.
Yeah.
They are repeatedly asking for it. Okay, the first question here is a girl from secondary school is unable to come out of a problem, that is, she likes a boy of higher secondary. She's a topper. How to bring out this challenge for us?
Okay.
So
That's
typically,
precisely
And this is a common question asked by many of them.
yes. So that's in fact it requires very careful and thoughtful response from the teachers, and this is a very common issue. You're very right, it's a very common issue. This is why I told right when I was touching upon this subtopic that it appears so scandalous to us when a student engages in this kind of a behavior, which is actually a very regular, typical, normal behavior. How do we deal with it? Well, it all begins by creating a safe. When I'm saying safe, I mean emotionally safe and a non-judgmental environment where the adolescent feels comfortable discussing with you. Youngsters will clam up the moment they feel that their information is going to be leaked out. Ma'am is going to discuss it with other teachers. Ma'am is going to, or sir is going to discuss it with the headmistress or the vice principal or the principal, and my parents are going to come, are going to, get to know about it. So confidentiality is something that needs to be upheld at all costs. So a non-judgmental scenario, an atmosphere, a stage has to be set, a space has to be created with the youngster, and you have to be very careful. No discussions in the staff room, etc. Respect the privacy of your student, unless, of course, there are concerns for their safety and well-being. That's the time when you breach confidentiality and you bring in another person on board. At the same time, when you're talking to the adolescent, stay neutral and stay non-judgmental. Our role as educators is to guide and educate and not pass moral comments. हमारे ज़माने में हम ऐसा करते थे, and very quickly, we make it about us. So be very cautious that we don't end up doing that. We are only listening, and we are listening actively. By active listening, I mean we are paying attention with our body, mind, and heart completely, right? We are responding, we are giving feedback through nonverbal, and so on and so forth. Having said that, it's very important to help the youngster understand the importance of healthy and respectful boundaries. Teach them about consent. Very important. What is consent? Right? It's many times I would tell my youngsters, students who would come, I would tell them, why fall in love? Rise in love. why do you want to go head on absolutely with your, you and not think? So definitely, take your, think from your heart and be emotional about it, but please don't leave your brains behind. Carry your brains with you. So use humor, use these kind of metaphors to make your point, right? And very important to understand, please recognize any signs of abuse or manipulation. Very often this happens in a direct relationship, wherein, in a romantic relationship like that, where one partner could be actually having that kind of a control and not allowing the other person to wriggle out. So sense and recognize any sign of abuse or manipulation. And if you think this is becoming a way too much for you to, it's going beyond your area of expertise, bring in the school counselor, bring in the expert. Yeah.
One more question, ma'am.
I think it is also necessary. Just 1 second, but it is also necessary that the school should also look at setting up the counseling centers over a period of time, wherein they can have the experts. Because this we have seen it progressing over a period of time. In the last 3 years, we have been doing these SDIP sessions over the last 3 years. We have gone to some schools and we have seen that by setting up this kind of a counseling, in fact, we helped a couple of schools to get some local good counselors who are available once or at least twice a week. And it has allowed them to handle those issues professionally. See, what happens today is the difference between how a school handles it. Everything depends on that. As I see most of the questions being answered by Satish and by Gurpreet, that it's actually how the teacher is going to handle it. The outcomes are going to be based on that. So if these schools are really witnessing a rise in these kind of things, they should look forward to an expert advice being brought in, because these are critical. These are very, very critical elements. And it's a question about the child's future. If it is done in a positive manner, you can see a turnaround in the child.
Yes, absolutely.
We have, in our experience also, Shraddha, wherever we were having our counseling centers in universities or schools, we have seen a positive change in the overall environment. The people started coming to us and talk to us, because listening to somebody or giving counseling to somebody is an expertise which our teachers or other people may not be having. Although at the first stage, the teachers are the counselors or the parents are the counselors. But ultimately, as Gurpreet said, when the things are not looking very bright, I think help from a professional is very necessary. But it helps. The counseling center helps.
Over to you, Bhairavi. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. There is one more question. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, your video is off.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There is one question: how to handle students from slum background?
Are these students a part of the same class?
That they have not mentioned, sir.
Yeah. That's why I said take the top 3 questions.
Okay.
The interesting questions.
Okay, I can just quickly say one thing. When I was talking about, I'm sorry, I would not want this to be passed. It's very important because now a lot of schools have this kind of a formula where 20%, or as per government ruling, some portion, some percentage of students have to be incorporated from the EWS, economically weaker section. And when I was talking about having inclusive setups, that's precisely what I meant. When we talk about inclusion has to be from all perspectives. Students today, we cannot handpick our students. Earlier, we used to conduct nursery admissions, and we would interview students. We would handpick and tailor make, customize our classrooms. But today, students are coming from all walks of life, from all backgrounds. So it has to be, and a classroom becomes a microcosm. It's an ecosystem, and it's that's how the world is going to be. So create an inclusive environment where every voice is heard. where every student feels safe, irrespective of the background, irrespective of the class, irrespective of abilities and disabilities.
Yeah. True.
Correct.
That's all that I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other question? No, I think.
Bhairavi, any other questions?
No more questions, sir.
Okay. So, on behalf of the university and the SDIP team, Gurpreet, we are thankful to you for sparing your valuable time
Thank you so much.
and, spending good amount of time in preparing for this particular topic. It was a very, very interesting topic. We got a lot of thumbs up from the emails that when we were sending it across from the university to the teachers, intimating them about a program like this. And in fact, the teachers can continue to keep sending us emails with their questions, and at intervals, we will get back to you through the emails with the appropriate answers. And maybe at times we could also conduct just a question answer session on this as a repeat thing.
Yeah.
Why not?
Thank you so much, Gurpreet, for your time. And
So much.
Satish Kaushik, you have always been a good inspiration for the university. It's always good to be associated with you and the association, and we really get connected with a lot of very like-minded people through you. And it allows the university to really spend some valuable time on these initiatives. So thank you so much, and keep motivating us with some lovely people that you bring across and the topics.
Thank you, Sundar.
And also sincere thanks to Bhairavi for putting across this program on behalf of this university and bringing everybody together. And I also understand that coordination is not easy. It's one of the toughest jobs to bring people across on the same platform, though you have not met anybody of them. But doing that is also an art, and I'm sure this will actually go a long way for you in your career.
Oh, I definitely want to say something to Bhairavi. Very nicely done. Bhairavi, hats off to you. Very nicely done. We did not feel any problem conducting this program, and got
Thank you, sir.
keep it up. I think you are doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
sir.
just
Thank you
before
so
we
much.
log off, just a last piece of reminder to all the teachers. Please put in your email reply to us in terms of your interested topics. We will take out the best from that, and we will keep coming to you once in every 2 weeks on a Saturday for some lovely interaction like this. So thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, sir.